Good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be discussing One Piece chapter 1040 titled Wasted Words on Young Heirs. Of course, before we begin, spoiler warning. So yeah, let's dive straight into the chapter. So this week cover page is back to basically the German recalling what happened with Emma and Big Mom. So we see Neji and Yonji pinned to Big Mom's book, just like the other things that we saw when they were in Whole Cake Island and they're remembering their loss to Big Mom and how it took place. So we see both of them having the little flashback over the head with Big Mom beating them. So yeah, first page of the chapter. So the first page of the chapter we pick up right where the last one left off. We see Kid using his damned punk on Big Mom firing the blast up, and we get the sky view of it looking down. And see Big Mom is over the hole that Law created with his last attack, and basically Kid is trying to shoot her down the hole. And we get a view of the map from the side again from Onigashima, and we see where they are, and then we see the big hole that Law created all the way down into Wano. So the aim is probably to shoot her through there and let her fall off of Wano because Big Mom likes to fall. But this leads to the scene where we see Big Mom kinda smiling and she's like, hey you brats, because she's smiling a bit, and we see the crew kind of shocked that she's still there, she's not being blasted down, so everyone is in awe, and we see Big Mom gripping onto the edge of the holes with her both hands and feet holding on. And Big Mom then says, you know what, make your choice, you could select your fate, or the fate that you'll suffer the moment I deflect this thing back at you. And she basically uses the attack life or slavery. The unofficial chapter release, I found those translations were much cooler. It was life or slave, like life or death, but this one is life or slavery. And essentially she's saying either you give me 50 years or you become my slave. And all of Kaido's crew are like, oh no, she's using soul focus. So everyone's trying to escape, but we see her ability kinda works, and we see souls being drawn out of everyone towards her. And we see Law's crew is telling her to get away from her, or telling Law to get away from her. Same for Kid, they're telling Kid to get away from her. And they're calling her terrifying because they fear her. But Kid goes on to say, why should we fear or be afraid of weak words from someone who's outlived her welcome? And this leads to basically Law using a new attack. In the unofficial it's called R Room, in the official it's called Re Room. And Law says, I could only imagine how hideous your death screams are. So he uses this attack, or prepares it, and while he's doing that we could see Law's men and even Kid's men are saying neither of them are losing seconds of their lifespan or their soul. How is this if they don't have any fear for her being a Yonko? And Law goes on to say that this new attack is what his savior would have done. And essentially Law goes on to use his attack and he creates like a sphere on Big Mom, and everyone is shocked because they're like, all the sound has vanished. And Law says this technique extinguishes all the sound created by your influence, and we see a picture of Corazon, so this move is influenced by him. So basically it silences everything in the dome, so Big Mom's attack cannot reach out anymore to call souls to her because you can't hear her, so effectively nullifying her attack. We then see Misery is going to attack Law, and Law does a kinda spinny move and cuts Misery in half. Seems like a normal move, no haki. And we see Kid uses Damned Punk again on Big Mom. And this time, in using it, he manages to kinda, I would say, knock her down, and she begins to fall. And she begins calling out for Prometheus and Hera, but of course, no one can hear her, even her homies, because of Law's bubble. So she begins to fall silently. No one can hear her to save her. Big Mom asks, what are you doing? Why don't you save me? But of course, again, they can't hear. Yamato notices Big Mom falling and she's like, why isn't it making any noise? And Big Mom also says, nothing I touch makes any sound. So not just her sound is mute, but anything she touches in the bubble itself is mute. But again, while falling, she grabs onto one of Yamato's frozen bombs and it goes off and explodes, causing a huge explosion down there, which Yamato blocks, I believe, either using her devil fruit to create an ice wall or a piece of debris. Not too sure on that. And we see Kazembo close to the explosion and it is hit and it goes Orochi, Lord Orochi. And I believe it's dead. But we'll have to wait and see. We then see the explosion from the outside of Onigashima and we see that the whole bottom piece on the right side is blown open. Big Mom is falling out of the island and smoke is coming out of her mouth. And she begins to speak to herself or in her mind and she's like, hey Roger, why do you have to go and say that? You got the whole world in on this age of piracy, a great era of piracy. And it's easy for you because you're dying. But when these kids rise up over the world or rise up in strength, they come after us. We're the ones they'll be coming after. And she also begins to say, you know, just tell us about the One Piece before it died. Does it exist? It better. And while she's saying all of this, we get a few panels of, I guess, everyone else around the island. So we see Robin and Brooke. So they probably felt the explosion of the bombs. We see some of Kaido's men and some of the samurai and Chopper. We see Orochi there. He seems to have fallen over. We see Fukurokuju and Raizo, and it seems that battle may be over because Fukurokuju has fallen down. He's screaming for water. We see Hiyori playing her biwa, and something interesting is we see Zoro face down, blood all over the place, and he's lying like this. And the explosion happens, we see he begins to fall. So where does he fall? We don't know. Will he be saved? We don't know. We then cut to more of Big Mom now, a wider angle view of her falling. In falling, she's like, what is it? Because she continues her monologue. What is it? Where is it? Some of it, or some of it's in this country too, isn't it? I'm so close. Again, speaking about Roger and the One Piece. And then she screams at her and she says, Kid Law, they'll pay for this. Don't you dare assume that this will kill me. And we see when she falls into the hole, there's a huge explosion, a giant mushroom cloud, kind of like a nuke went off. And I'm assuming there's a bubble around it also. So I'm assuming that's Law's room or room covering the explosion so the people of the capital don't hear the explosion. So I'm not sure if bombs fell into the hole with Big Mom or not. And then we get the little text bubble on the top and it's basically proclaims Emperor of the Sea Big Mom versus the new generation, Battle of the Performance Hall or the Performance Floor under the Dome winners. And we see Eustace, Captain Kidd, and Surgeon of Death, Trafalgar Law, and we get our victors. We then cut back to inside the dome. We see Law is sitting on a rock, Kid is laying on a rock, they're both tired, the men are running towards them, they're happy that they won. And then we cut now to Yamato and Momo. And Yamato and Momo are speaking through the hole in the floor. And Yamato is like, Momo, is that you? And Yamato is like, you on the ground but you're open to the air. And basically Yamato goes on to tell him that, you know, one of the bomb blew up, I froze the rest, thankfully nothing went off, we're safe, we're good, we're Gucci. But this leads to Momo telling Yamato something and she's like, I'm glad everything's well, kinda busy, can't really talk that much and do anything else but keep pulling this, but I want you to listen. Someone's on the way, Zunisha is very close. Yamato is like, oh, is that the elephant from Odin's journal? And Momo says yes. That Zunisha, it was a companion of Joy Boy, but it committed a crime 800 years ago. And the chapter ends with that little cliffhanger there. And of course, that is the end of the chapter. And I believe that leads us into what exactly? Maybe the following chapter we find out just what took place with regards to Zunisha and her crimes, because I don't see them just announcing that for any random reason. So I'm assuming we'll get some backstory with that. But that being said, we get a break next week, and the following chapter will be the week after the 27th. So we know Kid and Law have won their battle. Big Mom is probably not down yet. She'll probably come back for the Elbath arc if there is one, which there probably will be. Now the only fights left really is for us to see what's going on with CP0 and Izo, Luffy and Kaido, and I think that should be the end of the fights. I would like to believe so. I don't think I'm missing anything else. But yeah, this was a good chapter. It had a lot of endings or conclusions to how this thing would go. Finally got the ending of Kid and Law versus Big Mom. They won, but technically they didn't win, because they didn't really kill her or take her out permanently. They just had luck on their side. And I say that because the big hole in the ground was an advantage. Plus her grabbing her bomb was a big plus on their side because it helped throw her out the island. So yeah, cool new move Law has also. I would say Law is the MVP of this battle because he did a lot of internal damage to Big Mom and helped more than Kid with his brute force. Kid was a tank, Law was a support, but like a ADC of support. So yeah, all in all, good chapter, and I'll see you all next week for the next one.